Yeah, thanks, Roland, and thanks, May, for inviting me to give a brief update. This will take about 10 minutes. Roland, can you confirm that you can see the screen clearly?
On our side, we see the screen clearly, yes.
Okay, thanks. So this is a brief update about the use of WorldVeg breeding lines that have been reported by seed companies, and I've been doing this study together with Mandy. So first of all, consortium membership. As I was already mentioned, we have seen steady progress over the number of seed companies that subscribe to the consortium. Last year was 44 members. However, we also need to keep in mind that we have a high turnover of companies. So in the last year, for example, we had 14 companies joining the consortium, but also 13 companies that did not subscribe to the consortium in that particular year. Now, ideally, we would like in the future to have a bit more stable membership, not just have a high membership, but also have the companies join like every subsequent year. So that's just to keep in mind. And if you have any feedback on that, how to do that, we would be welcome to hear that. In terms of the composition of membership, this graph shows the small versus large companies. APSA and the consortium make separate between companies with fewer than 100 employees and larger companies. What we see is that the share of smaller companies has gradually increased over time. So now about half of the consortium members are considered smaller companies. Not shown here is that about half of the companies in the consortium are coming from India, and that share has not changed really over time. So that has been over the 4 years always about half of the companies from India. Now, the objectives of the feedback data are, first of all, we would like to understand how WorldVeg breeding lines and hybrids have been used by seed companies in the consortium. And not just those that were shared through the consortium, but also breeding lines that were maybe shared before the start of the consortium 2017, considering that we have a long-term relationship with many of the seed companies. And we would also like to know like how earlier lines are being used at the moment. We also would like to understand better the breeding priorities identified by consortium members. What traits you would like to prioritize in the future. Now, the feedback data that we collected, we used this kind of Excel spreadsheet. Different from previous years, we kind of pre-filled this spreadsheet. So we showed you the data that your company has provided in previous years, so that you can simply update it. This year, we sent it out in January 2021, which was a slight adjustment from earlier years. And we sent it to 63 companies that have at some point joined the consortium since 2017. Of those 63 companies, 23 returned the data. And overall, we have 34 companies that have provided data at any time since 2017, which is reasonable, but of course we would like that percentage to increase, so we want to have more feedback data from ideally all consortium members. But anyway, thanks for those companies that have provided data, which I will show that are quite valuable to us. So here's the first results, which shows the number of varieties reported by these consortium members. And we see a steady increase. And we see an increase in tomato varieties that containing WorldVeg germplasm, but also an increase in the bitter gourd, especially the last reporting period. More varieties of bitter gourd are commercially on sale in Asia. Now, these are the key performance indicators, and this shows the first row, the seed sales that contain WorldVeg germplasm in tons. So, for example, the first column shows 2.6 tons of bitter gourd seed sold in Asia. We make an assumption about the average seed rates. We estimate that that is enough to plant about 3,000 hectares under bitter gourd and potentially reaching 6,000 farmers. That's still small, but that's the first year actually that we have seen some impact of our bitter gourd breeding program, and we expect that to increase in the future. Now, the main impact, of course, is created still by our traditional crops, pepper and especially tomatoes. If you see, those numbers are much higher. In total, we expect we see seed sales about 24.7 tons in last year, 2020, and that's potentially enough to reach almost 500,000 of small-scale farmers in Asia. So that's great, and we share this data, of course, with our donors. We're very grateful to see those impacts of the investments that they also make in World Vegetable Center and the breeding programs. Now, if we look at how that material is used, what is being used, are those direct releases of World Veg lines or hybrids or parental material, parental lines. What we see here traditionally for tomato and pepper, often we're talking about particular traits such as bacterial wilt resistance or heat tolerance incorporated in commercial tomato and pepper varieties. But for bitter gourd and pumpkin, we see a slightly different model where we also have World Veg developed hybrids or parental, like hybrid parents used in commercial hybrids. So that's an interesting difference here. In terms of the number of companies that is currently using our material, we could report that there are 13, for example, companies using bitter gourd and 15 companies are currently using our tomato breeding lines. The second row shows the number of companies that have actually commercialized a particular variety already. This shows that we can expect in the future that more of those breeding lines will become commercially available, perhaps, and the impact will increase in the future. Now, this is the last slide I would like to share, and this shows the top 5 traits that were given the highest priority for World Veg breeding programs, and that's based on the 2020 data or 2021 data, and I only show the top 5 traits here. First of all, what we observe here, and I have marked them, but that doesn't show some. Oh, it does show. So first of all, important trait for both gourds and anti-solanaceous crops is the begomavirus resistance. The second one, that is also not showing. Okay, here it is. High yield, of course. For every crop, respondents indicated high yield is a key aspect, of course. They would like us to prioritize. Or breeders can comment on that if they like. For gourds, powdery mildew resistance was identified as a high priority trait. For the solanaceous crops, heat tolerance was also ranked quite high. And then, of course, lastly, the bacterial wilt resistance. So these are the top ones. I think this can be the basis for further discussion about special projects and future priorities. So with that, I would like to thank you for your attention, and would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Pepijn, for this presentation on the impact. There's one question that came in the Q&A box, and it is, do you give a live membership?
We haven't considered that yet. I think I would also think about. I think we don't have it. Actually, the membership at the moment is annual, and we are thinking whether annual model is a bit cumbersome because every year we need to register and pay and do the payments. Ideally, we want to extend it a bit, maybe make it a 3-year or 5-year membership. That would be helpful. But if you have any opinions about that, we would like to hear from you. But at the moment, we still keep it to annual membership. Yeah. So lifetime, you're not there yet. I think we need to prove ourselves and see this is a stable configuration. But yeah, I think we would like to extend it a little bit. Yeah.
There's a second question on whether there is a way to break out the numbers by geography. When we relate to numbers, I suppose this is the number of the lines that have generated impact.
Yeah, it's difficult to do it. I would like to do that, but the problem is that the vegetables seed production and trade is, of course, highly international. So a variety, we don't ask also about the particular varieties produced because we consider that as maybe confidential information. So it's difficult to trace where those seed sales are actually happening. Is that, for example, in the Indian companies, we know that Indian companies export a lot of their seeds, not just to Asia, but also potentially to Africa. So we are not tracing that exactly where it is being sold. Would be interesting to do that in the future, but at the moment not. No.
Now we have a historical question. How old is the APSA Consortium?
Well, this This consortium started in 2017, but we did have a consortium in the past, I think around 2012, but that didn't last so very long. So this is actually a second attempt at a forming consortium, and it started in 2017. Yeah.
There is a question about pepper. Pepper, India leaf curl virus is a main main trait. Are we working on it?
That's a question for Derek. Or you can ask maybe.
If I may quickly ask, yes, there's a special project that is now just offered. We are talking about this today. And any plans on an okra consortium? Also here, Dylan will talk later on about these plans, and I also will mention it. So we have time for one more question if a member is coming up quickly. Yes, I'm here. It's everything answered. There is no open question.
Okay, thank you then.
So thank you very much, Pepijn.